Check it out, guys. We're on another project, filming live for the Leggari Academy. So before we get into this project and show you guys what they did to this floor, we originally decided to launch this exclusively on Academy, but after watching the footage, we decided to, show you guys some sneak peeks of this project, and sneak peeks are about 25-30 minutes long, which is pretty crazy. So we have about 10 hours of footage. And so I just wanted to show you guys the possibilities that you can do with our products. It's truly limitless, and we have some of the coolest systems out there to do applications like this over wood subfloors that's gonna last a long time. The Leggari Academy, if you guys haven't heard about it, go check it out. We've been working on this for years, and we've taken decades of experience. We've taken years of footage from actual projects where we film everything that we can, guide you through every step of that project. You'll never find training like that anywhere. It's gonna fast forward you decades in advance into the coating industry. So go check it out if you haven't, guys, and enjoy this video with some really cool footage of some of the stuff that happened on this project. We are doing our flake system over a wood subfloor. You guys aren't gonna wanna miss this. We have one of the coolest processes for going over wood subfloors. All right, so this is day one for us. They've been here for a while, but this is gonna be a great project for you guys to learn a lot of stuff when you're coating over wood subfloors. So we're gonna be doing our flake system. We're gonna be showcasing a lot of products in this video. So we're pretty excited about this. Cool process. So I'll kind of introduce who we got on the job today. I'm Tyler. We got James behind the camera, as always. And then this is Phoenix LLC's project, which we have Travis, one of the owners, John, right here, troweling down the patcher paste. And then we got Emilio, we got Ricardo over here. Everybody's working, and then everyone knows Trey. So what we're doing right now is basically filling all the seams in the wood subfloor. And you'll notice we have the fiber tape on all the seams. We always want to fiber tape seams on wood subfloors. And then our patcher paste is ideal for covering those wood seams. We got some really industrial grade products we're putting over this. And so they came in, had to resheet the whole floor, right? This was the original floor. I said, hey, let's 3/4 inch tongue and groove. They glued it, they screwed it, right? So now we have this nice, fresh, solid surface, very sturdy, right? You wanna make sure there's no flex in the floor. They just put thin set on all these edges where the wood didn't go right to the wall. Nothing structural about it. The trim's gonna cover this. We just don't wanna lose resin back on those edges, right? The cool thing about this process is we're doing a flake system on this, but if you wanted to do a decorative metallic, you would do the same process that we're doing, flood coat it, and then you could do your decorative, but we're doing the flake system. So doing this process just makes these floors bulletproof. So what it does is it allows the resin to soak into the wood, and you'll see when we get to that point, when we flood coat this floor, it's gonna let the resin soak into the wood. And what that's gonna do is any loose pieces of wood or anything, once that resin hardens, it's pretty much locked into that wood. And so now we have a solid surface of our coating onto the wood subfloor. So pretty cool process. Next thing they got is the drains. Obviously they want it to slope, from here to the drain. That's why these are cut out. Basically, we're gonna pull this guy off. We'll patch a paste in here. We're gonna slide this thing in there. This is gonna lock it all in. And then this guy pops out and the drain goes inside here. And so we'll get patcher paste put in there. We're gonna put the metal lath around it. This will get stapled down everywhere. And then we'll go patcher paste this whole thing from this edge to the top here, screed it off. That's gonna give us our slope. This is gonna lock it to the floor so it won't ever chip on us. So that's the process we're gonna do on the drains, and then once that's done, we'll flood coat. We'll go over all that when we get to that point. Same process no matter if you're doing a flake system, if you're doing a decorative epoxy system over wood subfloor. We always recommend the process that you guys are gonna learn on this video, and there's a lot that you're gonna learn. It's very, very cool. We've done a lot of wood subfloors, tried a lot of different things, and this by far is the most extensive durable process when you're coating over wood. What we're doing right now is just basically just going around pushing that stuff, making sure we get the patch of paste in all the grooves, all the little areas that are gonna lock it into that metal lath. Make sure it's completely covered underneath it, all in it, right? All right, so we're on day 2. We're gonna be going over a lot today. I'll kind of go over what we did this morning when we got here. You're always gonna have some random things you gotta do. First thing I had them do is take a concrete grinder, cup wheel, dust shroud, and ground down any high spots, uneven spots. And so they did that, and then they went around and hit some spots on the floor. I'll kind of show you here, like here's a spot right here, right? So this is a perfect example. So we'll put a piece of tape here, because that's what they're doing right now. They're going around hitting any imperfections, any spots that are raised that didn't get flattened off. Could you probably chip this off? Absolutely. But this stuff sticks to the wood really good. But we want to make sure there's no high spots, ridges, right? And that's why when you're putting this patch or paste down, you want to really make sure, you know, you're looking everywhere, flattening everything off. And so they're doing that right now. Oh, they taped the drains, right? We need to build a barrier. So we have a dam around the drains now. This is gonna hold the resin from going into the drain. And when we coat, we'll basically spread the material up here and we'll kind of just roll in very light on this drain. We don't wanna do our notch squeegee around this drain. Doing a thick flood coat like we are, 45 square foot a gallon, it's gonna help level out this floor. It's gonna allow a lot of the epoxy to soak in to the wood and lock itself into that wood substrate. So very, very industrial grade process. Pretty simple as far as, you know, prep, right? They did all this yesterday. And then today it's just some simple touch up, some grinder, feather some stuff out, set our mixing station up. And then what I like to do when we're all done, you can either vacuum or just blow the room out, right? We want to make sure we don't have any chunks on the floor that we missed, or dust, debris, stuff like that. And then the cool thing about the process is tomorrow, if we come in and maybe we had some chunks and stuff, we can always sand those down, flush those out before we do our flake system. So a lot of forgiveness in this process, and also the flake systems have a texture anyways, so they're gonna hide a lot of imperfections. So flake systems are great for going over wood subfloors, commercial buildings, very, very strong, durable, highly scratch resistant because they have that texture. All right, so mixing station. What's going on here is basically we need 10 3-gallon kits to do this whole room. And so we have 10 buckets. Always buy enough buckets to just dump all the products out. So what Trey did is he went around. Here's all our part Bs for all these buckets. Notice they're off to the side. Last thing we want is someone to be dumping part As and they accidentally grab a part B. Now we just burned a 3-gallon kit. We have 2 gallons of part A in all of these buckets. Again, all the part Bs are off to the side, so we're not messing nothing up. Then we're pigmenting this so we don't have to prime, right? Because you always want to pigment, you know, your flood coats, your vapor barriers, so you don't have to prime the floor. And so he's added all the pigments into this. Hasn't mixed them up, he just put them in. Long story short, he basically got everything ready that he could before we're ready to add the part B. That's the last thing we want to do. So now, this is what makes it cool. When we start to mix, there's no waiting for buckets to drain out, There's no confusion. There's no, you know, grabbing stuff out of buckets randomly, just like, you know, stuff just doesn't go smooth when you have to do that. So now all we have to do is when they mix, they just grab a part B. One B goes to one bucket. Do our 3P2 process, hand it off to us, done. Once that's done, throw the buckets out or stack them. And then when we're ready to mix another one, they just grab another part B, dump it in. It's a very fast, efficient way when you're coating larger projects. So we always recommend taking the time, setting everything up. And again, this is a pretty fast process because we're not doing highlights. We're not doing nothing decorative. We're just basically spreading with the notch squeegee, rolling it, mixing it with denatured, and we're done. We'll let it do its thing. Once we start mixing, guys that are coating need to get their spiked shoes on. Again, make sure you got your rollers ready, de-shed those. We're using 3/8 nap, 18-inch for the main part, 9-inch to hit the edges. And so we're pretty much ready. So Trey's gonna go over the 3P2 mixing process. I'll just explain it real quick and then James can film him do it. They're gonna dump their part A in. They're gonna start at the top of the bucket, middle, go all the way down, spinning the drill. Once they hit the bottom, go around once or twice, come up slow. Once they hit the top, go around once or twice. That stands for 1. We're gonna do that 3 times. And then the letter P stands for pour into a secondary container or bucket, which Trey's labeled. Always label your secondary mixing buckets because we reuse these. Never reuse your first buckets because you'll notice we have part A on all the sides. We dump the part B in. If you don't scrape your edges good, the bottom good, you're always gonna have unmixed resin dump on the floor. This is what the transfer secondary mixing bucket's for. And then he's gonna go up and down 2 more times. So that's our 3P2 process. You'll never have unmixed resin. You'll never have soft spots in your floor. We highly recommend always mixing, no matter what you're mixing, resin-wise. Do this process, you'll never have an issue. Last thing you want to do is do a beautiful floor and you go out the next day, or you're gonna go do your top coat and you have these sticky, rubbery, nasty, gooey spots randomly throughout your floor. It'll just ruin your project because you gotta address those and then recoat, pain in the butt. And if you don't have enough guys, you can mix 1 3-gallon kit at a time. It doesn't matter. If you have bigger projects, you can have a couple guys mixing. You can also do 4.5-gallon batches. We have videos of that. A lot of different ways you can mix, but it's always good to have enough manpower on projects to just make it go smoothly, right? You never want to mix, go pour it, come back, try to mix again, go pour it. You always want a designated mixer, designator applicator, and then a designated, guy to run stuff, grab stuff, because you're always going to need random things when you're doing big projects like this. So we're finishing up now. I was telling Emilio he can go back and roll around the drains. Some spots we can kind of see the patch of paste. Re-roll that, right? You can jump back, hit some spots, and then clean up. Obviously throw the rollers away, buckets away, clean the notch squeegee, denatured alcohol. Yeah, that's it. We're gonna finish this up. We're gonna head out. They're gonna coat that other section by themselves, and then tomorrow we're gonna come back, start the flake process. So we'll go over a lot of stuff tomorrow. Biggest thing when you're doing these coatings, we want to make sure if you put patch or paste down, you're coating over it the next day, right? If you're putting epoxy down, you're coating over it the next day. So try to map out your project so you can come in the next day, get the stuff down. If not, you have to sand, scuff up the surfaces to get a profile for the next coating to bond to. So we'll see you guys back tomorrow. All you coating contractors, if you want to set your business apart or add a revenue generating machine to your current business, go to LeggariAcademy.com. You're gonna learn over 10 coating systems, and you're gonna be doing projects just like this. Okay, so we're on day 3. They did a lot of stuff before we got here, so I'm just gonna kind of walk around, point out everything that we did, address a few things. We got a lot of roller hairs in this floor, so what I had them do was come in, sand the whole floor. I think they had like 80 grit floor sander, walk behind floor sander, 80 grit sand-in screens, and we sell those on our website too. We have 100 grit for sanding up, you know, imperfections in the floor, and then we also have 220 grit. Right? 220 grit for sanding it right before you top coat, right? You always want to use this finer sand if you're top coating. You can kind of see all the sander marks, right? Like you can kind of get in the glare. Can you pick that up, James? So you can see all the sander marks. So really quick, we just want to knock down any of the burrs, right? Anything that's sticking up out of the floor. It doesn't have to be perfectly smooth because again, the flakes are super forgiving as far as they have a texture to them. So they're not like a metallic where it's a glass smooth finish, right? And then the next thing they did was remove the tape around the drain because no matter what you do, this is sloped. So even if you put a thin coat on, the resin is gonna flow to the tape and start to build up, right? It'll start to build up and kind of level out here. Pulled the tape, took a grinder, diamond cup wheel, same thing we did on the patcher paste yesterday. Flushed this down, rounded it out, ground it down a little bit. So now it all slopes down. This is the lowest point. This drain edge is the lowest point in this drain slope. Basically, when we're done, this will look like it's over a concrete floor. It's gonna be a very impressive finished project. All right, so we're getting ready to pour. So one thing, when you're mixing the same way we showed you guys yesterday, 3P2 process. We're obviously just not gonna be making as much, right? We don't need to do 2-3 gallon kits because this is such a big section. It takes a little longer to spread out because we're using our flat squeegees, not the notch ones, so you gotta kind of manipulate it better. We wanna hold it flat, low, like at a really low angle, and just spread it out thin. And what Alex is gonna do, he's gonna pour that whole 3 gallon kit, small beads, multiple beads from wall to wall, all the way down, because we got a coat to here. And then we're gonna cross spread it. We wanna work back and forth this way, spreading it out. And I still like to hit all the perimeter first. And then once it's spread out, we're gonna roll it real quick and immediately start flaking. And like I said, these drains, we'll focus on these, make sure it's nice and thin, throw a flake onto these first, and then flake the rest of the floor. All right, so Alex is gonna pour the beads, and it's better to do smaller beads and go back and add to them than maybe pour too much and then have to try to spread it. Like I said, it's better to pour smaller ones and you can go back and add instead of having some big fat beads here and then you got these little skinny beads out here. And so now, like I said, I always like doing perimeters first. So I'm just gonna focus on just spreading this out, getting all the perimeters hit. And then it's simple, you just go back and forth once your edges are done. So the squeegee guy's job, spread out the product. The paintbrush guy's job is to make sure epoxy's all the way up to every corner, every edge. And then like I say, I like to go around with the 9-inch, hit all the edges again, make sure they're coated, right? Around drains, around everything. And then final thing is 18-inch roll the whole thing, and then we're gonna throw flake into it. everything's the same no matter how big the project is, right? Basically take your first section you did, and you just repeat that until you're done with your job for each section. The reason we break it up into sections is because if we tried to coat all this at once, right, and then throw flake, by the time we got it all coated, our first batch that we mix is gonna be a lot stickier and set up than our last batch. And so the flakes aren't gonna wanna soak in and lock themselves in as deep into the resin. And so we split it up. Now, if you have enough guys, plenty of people to do the work, you could do, you know, this whole room at once. Someone can jump back and flake as you're coating. But again, you always want to make sure you have enough manpower, and it doesn't really take that much longer to just split it up into sections. So we'll get this wrapped up. Tomorrow we'll come in, do our polyaspartic, clean all the flakes up, apply the final coat, and this thing should look really, really good. So today they showed up, scraped the floor, just metal scrapers, both directions. So we go this way wall to wall, scraping the flakes, and then we go this way. We basically cross scrape it. What that's gonna do is eliminate any flakes that are kind of sticking up above all the other flakes. It'll kind of shave them off, knock them off. That's what we're looking for. And then they picked up all the remaining flakes, put them back in the boxes, because we can use those for other projects. You basically want to get all the loose flakes off the floor. So however you want to do that, the easiest thing to do, blow the room into a couple corners, vacuum the remnants up. We don't like to keep the remnants, the small pieces, because a lot of times they'll have crap in it, chunks of other stuff that are in those small pieces, and you don't want to wind up putting those on another floor. And so we just take the majority of it, reuse that. The rest we just vacuum up and throw away. And I also had them retape all the drains. The drains, the thresholds, the door thresholds, right? I like to do that because, you know, we got a flood coat, then we got another epoxy coat with flake, and then we're gonna put a poly coat over it. It sometimes makes it really hard to get tape off because you got all those layers. So I always like to retape before our final coat. That way when we're done, we'll come back, pull the tape, it'll come off like butter. Everything's pretty much dialed in, clean, ready to go. Everyone's got masks, right? And this coat's very, very fast because we're basically relying on our flat squeegee and the texture in the floor to spread it out at the right thickness. It's really cool. We basically dump it out, pull it tight with the squeegee, roll it, and we're done. So what I'll do now is I'll go over the mixing. Cool thing about the polyaspartic is it doesn't set up in a bucket. And so we can let it sit in a bucket. You can literally pour a little out, spread it, roll it, pour a little more out, spread it, roll it. Once it's rolled out and it's spread out thin, that's when it starts to kick off and start getting hard. And so definitely different than epoxies. You would never want to leave epoxy in a bucket, but that's just the nature of the polyaspartics. They start to flash off when they're rolled out thin. All right, now we can dump this out on the floor. Again, we're gonna pull it tight, apply pressure, and we're basically pulling it tight, and it's leaving a lot of product in the low spots. Once we get it all spread out, we're gonna roll it wall to wall one time, and then it's pretty much done. We start our next section. But same thing with all the other coats, is I like to do my perimeters first. Get all my perimeters done. Someone's gonna have a paintbrush, which Emilio already has, because I always like to paintbrush all the edges too. 9-inch all the edges, and then you finish it 18-inch roller wall to wall. That way you know all your edges are hit, all your corners are hit. Your 18-inch rollers just go wall to wall to finish it out. And again, you always want to do sections. We wouldn't want to try to coat this whole floor at once and then go back and roll it. It's going to start tacking up on us. All right, so we're going to finish this thing out. One thing I was telling the guys is whoever's rolling the final roll, it's always good for him to be looking for thick edges as he's rolling. Just really focus on the floor that he's rolling. The other thing is try not to overlap into the previous sections very far. Try to always be right on that edge, overlap just a little bit. Don't go like a couple foot into the previous section you did, because that's already going to be tacking up. Biggest thing, no thick spots, no puddles, rolled out nice and thin. You won't have any issues with the floor. Yeah, that's it. Manageable sections, enough guys, spread it tight. You should have the exact coverage as long as you're spreading it tight. And this is the kind of look that you're looking for, right? You're always gonna have texture with flake floors. That's what's gonna add the slip resistance, the durability, the scratch resistance. If you notice, you know, it's looking pretty flat and smooth, you probably too much product. You need to spread it out more.